Okay, we're working on the cape pattern, and so far this is what we've come up with, just using some scrap fabrics, hence that's why it's in different colours. So we're just playing around with some ideas at the moment. Now there are several factors that we had to think about when constructing this cape. There are quite a few ways you could do it. You could make your cape a lot longer at the top so that it's gathered, which is an option that you see a lot, and especially in the Disney World Parks version. It's heavily gathered and bunched and then just tucked into the corset. You could sandwich the edge of this cape in between the liner of your bodice and the outer fabric, but the only trouble with that is you would have to stop it and have an opening here and a seam line down the back of the cape, because if you can imagine the bodice underneath here, you've got to be able to open and close that bodice, and you can't do it if you've got no opening at this point. So if you were to sandwich this between the liner and your outer bodice fabric, you would then have to find a way of sewing it so that it stops here and yet you've got an opening and that you can somehow sew it to your bodice, but that is really a bit involved if you ask me, so that option was out. So what we have decided to do is to make it fitted along the top, so this line actually fits me all the way around to the front, as well as you can see on the dummy here. And what we are going to do is turn an edge over it later to neaten it and attach poppers to the inside of the bodice, so that this will just clip on then over the edge, so that the entire cape then will be separate. The final thing we did look at was actually sewing this to the smock top itself. So if you can imagine, this is lifted upwards, all the cape is out the way, like so. You would have sewn this to your stretched top, but again you've got the issue that you've got to lift this all the way up while you put your corset on, which again is more trouble than it's worth. The next part, now at some point during a costume, Mum and I always get into a heated debate about what she can see and what I can see, and sometimes it comes to a bit of a clash. Now at first she was convinced that the cape comes to a point and just carries on all the way around, but after trying ages to find these photographs, I finally managed to convince her that there are actually peaks on the cape. It's quite distinctive on this one, and again this one you can see goes in and then there's a peak and then there's another peak. So after finally convincing her, we've actually come up with the 3-peak option. Now at first this peak wasn't coming out far enough for my liking, so I've added a piece on this side because I think the peak should be brought out a little more in theme with the second peak in. And I can see the edges are quite frilly on the CGI version. So what I thought, I'd be experimenting with an overlocking stitch on the edge, which actually gives it a flouncy look to the organza, so I think I'll go with that because that looks quite nice and it'll be way easier than just turning a seam over to neaten the edge. So we have our peaks, and I'm just going to show you the pattern pieces, and these are the pieces we've come up with. The front, piece number 2, which is side front or side back, and then the back piece here. back piece has been done on the centre fold, so there'll be no seam line. Then of course you will cut 2 of this one and 2 of this one. The length of this back piece is 1m76, and at the widest point at the bottom here, approximately 76 centimetres from there to there at that point. And this is 29 centimetres, and this all includes a centimetre seam allowance on each side. Your measurement across the top here might be bigger than mine because I'm a very small bust of only 31.5 inches. So if you choose to do a fitted design like this or follow this tutorial, your measurements along the top here will obviously be different depending if you're larger or smaller. Number 2 here, this side front, side back. I'm looking at approximately 1m47. I have put the tape measure at an angle there. Note on the other side of piece 2, this line is a little bit longer. This line is shorter. Just turn it around. As you can see, quite different angles there. Piece number 1, the front, to this peak, I'm looking at about 1m41, sorry, because I've moved it down a bit. There we go. So now I've got my pieces, I'm just going to go and cut them out of my fabric. This is the fabric I'm going to use for my cape, and again it was really hard to get the exact blue of her cape, which in some scenes is quite pale, and other scenes it's quite blue depending on if she's in light or darkness. So I saw this and it was quite nice. I know the lighting's not very good in the room at the moment. I'll come into the sun a bit better now. I don't think I'm going to be able to capture the best colour on the camcorder. I might do on the photographs. The fabric is organza. It's very much like a crystal organza because it has like a slightly glittery sheen. It's not the liquid organza. That really does sort of look like liquid. It glosses all over. This has that sheen that the crystal organza has. I bought it from the fancy silk store in Birmingham, United Kingdom, so I can't really give you an internet link for that. You'd have to actually go into Birmingham itself, and that's the fancy silk store it's called. Right, I'm going to crack on. Okay, I've now put the cape together. To save time, we've just overlocked the edges and used an overlocking or serger if you're in America, just to go down the edges and sew those together. Make it nice, quick and easy. This is how it's looking so far. There we go, and then we've run out of thread for now, but until we get some more we'll be overlocking the other edges as well to do that frilly effect, and I'll be ready to decorate. The next stage of doing the cape is drawing my pattern. I've decided to go a little bit simple, and because I'm also very short and I didn't want the cape too long, I also have a giant snowflake to fit in at the bottom here. My foot is, sorry. I noticed on the film version this pattern comes down a lot more, but that would mean I have a really long cape, which I don't want, especially around conventions. Not a good idea. So, to fit in the amount of snowflakes I want, my design is only coming sort of halfway down. proportion with my height as well. So you've got the back and the side, front, side, back, and then the front piece all over here. And then when I come to do the other side, I'll just flip those two pieces over that way to reverse the pattern. There we go. Right. The next thing you need to do is get some of this good stuff called cling film. And you need to cover your whole pattern, or as far as you are going to put your glitter on, and anchor it with some weights on the side. Helps if you have two people to do this. Okay, next thing you do is lay your fabric on top of the cling film. Cling film's pretty good to use because it stops the paper sticking to your fabric and you can still see through it, so you can still see your pattern. Next you need a lid or container, some sponges, and this special stuff called Tulip Fashion Glitter Bond, which I tested on some of this organza earlier and it works really well. Unfortunately you can only get these big size bottles in America, so I had my friend ship me over several bottles. It dries flexible and also washable, and it's permanent. No other craft glues or fabric glues work as well as this or give a flat appearance as this. You can buy the small packs over here of Glitter Bond, but to cover this amount of area you'll need some big bottles. So the glitter I've chosen is a white glitter, and the best one I personally liked was this one from Deco Art called Glamour Dust in Crystal. So that's what I will be using for my particular cape. Okay, I've put quite a lot of this glitter bond onto the lid because the sponge needs to soak it up quickly. Just get some, and then you just dab it on and you just paste it. Like so. Now it doesn't dry very quickly, so you have a few minutes or so to put your glitter on. Okay, next up you get your glitter. I just sprinkle it on. For about 2 hours because it's quite a large area. Okay, I finished the cape. I've since gone ahead and done all my snowflakes as well. In a moment I'll just show you the stencils that I used. This is the biggest stencil snowflake for the back of the cape. I then used a slightly smaller one, same shape, for the next section, and the panel nearest the front is a lot smaller. do these, I first of all got some images of the snowflakes off the internet and I found, and cut them out to a size that I liked. I used the table this time to do the individual snowflakes. First of all, I'd put my pattern pieces down where I wanted them to lie and finish on the pattern, and then you'd get your cling film again, put your cling film over the top of the pattern and then lay your fabric over the top of that. So it's the same principle all over again. These are some of the snowflake designs that I have used. I did a couple of these in different sizes. This is a big one and this one's slightly smaller. To do these smaller snowflakes, I didn't use sponge, I used some paint brushes with the Tulip Glitter Bond, so I was able to get a nice crisp line. So I was pasting my glue on like this, so make sure I've got a nice flat edge like so, almost like you're painting with paint, and at least then you get a nice straight edge as you go along. So that's a good tip, to use some paint brushes, especially these little fiddly snowflakes that are really hard to do.
Okay, we're just going to show the cape now. There we go.
Okay, as we made ours a fitted cape, we're using a press stud or popper idea, where you need to wear your corset or bodice, have somebody, as I've obviously got my mum, you need somebody to line this up best on you where you want it to start. And if you fit this earlier on right and done all your measurements properly, it should fit exactly. You shouldn't have any excess or much gap in the middle, but if you do, just take the seams in a bit. And what we're doing is we're going to sew on some poppers to the cape and on the inside of the bodice, and that will mesh the two together in the end. So once you've lined it up where you need it to be, just mark it on the cape with a fabric pen or marker or pins, whatever you want to use, and also mark on the inside of the bodice on the liner where you want each popper to be, so they match up perfectly.
Along the top of the cape now, and we're just sewing on some 9mm metal snap fasteners at regular intervals across the top, and we'll just show you in the next video the snap fasteners going onto the bodice.
I don't know if you can just see here, but to show one of the poppers on the inside, be very important to make sure that you've got them going the right way, so that when you say this is the edge of your cape, when you attach it to the inside, like so there, you want to make sure that your popper is facing the right way, so that just clips over and pops on there like so. And I've spaced mine quite evenly around. It might be different on yours. Here we go. So hopefully then you just get the idea of the cape actually folding over the edge of the bodice and popping on.